I've shown you so far have been books which fall under the heading of beautiful bindings because of ways that the binding has been decorated in order to make it stand out. The next book that I'm going to show you illustrates another way of making a book something special, and that's by using unusual materials for the binding. The book in question is this one here, which I hope you can see okay. It's the Stretton manuscripts. It's a compilation of notes on the history of Nottinghamshire and on the family of Stretton, which were written by William Stretton. William Stretton was born in Lenton, and he was an architect and a builder in Nottingham. He was born in 1755, and he lived until 1828. And one of the things that he's most remembered for locally is that he bought a plot of land on the site where Lenton Priory was in the medieval period. And whilst he was there, he built himself a house on the plot, but he also undertook excavations and discovered a lot of really interesting antiquarian type information about Lenton Priory and about the medieval monastic people who lived there. So, as well as being an architect, he was an antiquarian. He was active in the social life of Lenton, and he kept extensive notes, as many people who had those sorts of interests did. Now, as far as I can tell, the notes were not published in his lifetime, but in 1910, the notes were published in this volume, the Stretton manuscripts. It was privately published in Nottingham, and seems to have been a fairly limited run. We actually have 3 copies of this in the library at the moment. This particular one is from the James Ward collection. There's one in the Michael Dobbin collection, which is currently on loan to us, and we also have a copy that's currently stored in case 1, our case where we lock away the more valuable books. Now, this, as I say, it includes a family history of the Strettons and various notes and information, but for the purposes of today's talk, what's interesting about it is the way it's been bound. Now, I'm going to take the plastic off. I should tell you about the plastic in just a moment. And I don't know how well this is going to come out on the screen, on the video, but this, if you can see, it looks kind of suede-y. And that's exactly what it is. This is bound in leather, but it's what we would term reversed leather. So it's leather that's been bound the other way round. So it is effectively a suede-bound book. Now that, of course, is not terribly hard-wearing. So you would only do this for a book which had a certain status, a book which people would like to have on their shelves and like to look at, but not something that they would be taking down and using on a very frequent basis. So that says something to us about the status of this book when it was published. Now, interestingly, I did find online a book auction site that is selling a copy of this book, and the listing, although there wasn't a photograph, unfortunately, the listing says it's in the original cloth, which suggests that maybe this book was published in more than one different binding. And that wasn't terribly uncommon at the time, that you could get a more expensive copy that was bound in better materials, or you could get a less expensive copy that was bound in more usual materials, such as book cloth. However, this one and the other 2 which we have in the collection are bound in this reversed leather, and that's the reason why we've wrapped this one in plastic. Now, this plastic that we use for some of our book conservation, it's called Melanex, and it's a completely inert plastic, so it won't react with any of the materials that the books are made from. Often we use it to wrap books where the spine has become illegible, because we can write on this in gold pen, and therefore make a new spine label for a book that you wouldn't be able to see what it was when it was on the shelf otherwise. But in this instance, the Melanex is entirely there in order to protect the book. The binding itself is very solid, it's very sound, but just the fact that it's made with this unusual material means that it would be delicate if we were to put it on the shelf unwrapped.